So good to have you join us today. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Lee Ji-yoon. Before we get started, let's see what we have lined up for you today. Korea's credit default risk is at a two-year high amid growing uncertainties from China's slowing growth and stumbling domestic exports. Korea is currently involved in 3 investor-state dispute settlement lawsuits filed by foreign investors. We take an in-depth look at these ISDS cases and what Korea can do to better handle them. With the continuing uncertainties in the global economy, many emerging countries are facing a greater risk of going bankrupt. New data shows that Korea's credit default risk is at a 2-year high, and slowing exports aren't making things any better. Our Kwon So-ah has more.
Korea's 5-year credit default swap premium on its sovereign debt hit 82.43 basis points at the end of last month, according to market research firm Market. That's the highest since September 2013 and a big leap from the end of last year. A CDS premium is often used to indicate the creditworthiness of a company or country. Korea's risk premium rate has been on an upward trend since China's stock market plunge in July and its currency devaluation in August. The risk rate had appeared to decrease for a short while, but it went up again for Korea and other emerging markets last month, facing growing uncertainties stemming from the U.S. rate hike decision. The average risk increase rate for this year was at nearly 62% for Brazil, followed by Malaysia at 56% and Korea at almost 52%. Korea's major companies have been hit hard too. Top conglomerate Samsung Electronics CDS premium jumped to a 2-year 3-month high, and other big-name companies saw their largest risk rates in 1 to 2 years. Analysts point to China's slowing growth as the main culprit, especially because of the impact it has had on exporters. Korea's trade ministry said Thursday the volume of outbound shipments in September fell by 8.3% from the same month last year, resulting in a decline of 9 straight months this year. Korea's exports to China dropped by 5% from the year before. But the ministry said the news isn't all bad, considering the export figures for August, when exports plunged by almost 15%. Shipments to Europe jumped by almost 20% due to gradually improving economic conditions in the region. Prospects for next month are also looking better, with higher demand from North America expected due to Black Friday sales that signal the start of the holiday shopping season. Kwon So-ah, Business Daily.
Korea's industrial output has risen for 3 months in a row as the country steadily recovers from the after effects of the MERS outbreak. Statistics Korea says the country's overall output rose 0.5% on month in August. On-year growth was higher at 1.3%. By sector, the biggest growth was seen in the production of telecommunication devices and semiconductors. This has been attributed to the release of new handsets, as well as government policies to boost consumer spending. Production in the mining, manufacturing, gas, and electricity industries increased 0.4% on month in August. Production in the service sector also gained by the same margin. The head of the International Monetary Fund says there's reason to be worried about the global economy. In a speech Wednesday, IMF Managing Director Christine Lagarde said a marked slowdown in big emerging markets will cut global growth to its lowest level since the deep global recession of 2009. She said it's unclear whether the current situation is cyclical or represents a fundamental downturn. Lagarde added that the prospect of a rate hike in the U.S. and China's slowdown are contributing to uncertainty and higher market volatility. Well, meanwhile, Korea's Ministry of Environment has begun emissions testing on Volkswagen cars suspected of running emissions cheating software. 3 Volkswagen brands and 1 Audi model will be subject to the tests, which will take place both in labs and on the road, because the installed software reflects vastly different emissions output figures. The test results are expected to be released next month. Audi Volkswagen Korea, the local affiliate of the German automaker, said it will wait for the results and further communication with Volkswagen headquarters before instituting a recall. Of the estimated 11 million Volkswagen vehicles affected worldwide, sources say the automaker expects to recall about 100,000 units here in Korea. Korea's Financial Services Commission will close its window for all preliminary applications to set up the country's first internet-only bank as of Thursday. And as you can imagine, competition is stiff when it comes to opening up this non-brick-and-mortar banking operation. Our Lee Ji-young has the details.
The race to set up Korea's first online-only bank is heating up. Similar to Europe's digital direct bank Hello Bank, 4 consortia in Korea, the Kakao Bank Consortium, KT Consortium, Interpark Bank Grand Consortium, and 500 Volt Consortium, all a combination of financial firms and IT companies, have come together in a bid to win preliminary approval as internet banks. This comes as part of the government's efforts to deregulate the local financial industry and foster the fast-growing internet and mobile banking sector as more tech-savvy Koreans choose using convenient online and mobile transactions over visiting branches.
I believe internet-based banks can turn profit if they take on high-risk customers for loans as well as manage them, instead of trying to compete with off-site mobile banking features.
The Financial Services Commission said it plans to issue permits for 1 or 2 internet-only banks by the end of this year. Until then, it said it will screen documents and check related qualifications, including financial stability, shareholding structures, and customer service plans before making a final decision. Lee Ji-young, Business Daily.
Korea is faced with its third investor-state dispute settlement lawsuit. Just last month, an Iranian electronics company filed an international arbitration lawsuit against the Korean government, demanding the return of a partial payment. Let's take a closer look.
Korea's first investor-state dispute lawsuit was a multi-billion-dollar case claimed by Texas-based private equity firm Lone Star Funds. The second suit was filed by Entekhab Holdings, a Dutch unit of the Abu Dhabi-based International Petroleum Investment Company. With both of these cases still pending at the World Bank's International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes, an Iranian company named Entekhab recently filed an ISD suit against Korea. The company is demanding a refund of its down payment on a takeover of Daewoo Electronics, saying that Korea violated a bilateral investment guarantee agreement, thus failing to fulfill its contract. The ISDS mechanism allows a foreign investor to receive compensation through a third-party international arbitration lawsuit when the relevant country's policies cause damage to the investor. And as Korea begins its third ISDS arbitration process, there are growing concerns that the increasing number of lawsuits filed against Seoul could end up infringing the country's tax and legal measures as well as public policies.
And to tell us more about this, we're now joined by Professor Lee Jae-min of Seoul National University School of Law. So good to have you here with us.
Pleasure to be here today.
All right, so why are we seeing an increase in the number of these ISDS lawsuits against Korea in recent years?
Well, actually, this reflects global trend. This dispute has been on the rise for the past almost 2 decades, and now this trend is reaching Korea. So as of now, we have about 600 disputes globally against 100 countries. So given the Korea's economic rank in the world economy, which is about 9th or 10th status globally, then the 3 cases now we are having is actually reflection of Korea's growing status in the global community. So on the one hand, it's a new development, an embarrassing development indeed, but at the same time, it reflects the changing situation of Korea and actually reflects the increasing investment of foreigners made in Korea.
All right, well, can you briefly tell us about those 3 cases that Korea is faced with right now?
Sure. We have 3 cases now. The first one is the one brought by Lone Star in 2012.
U.S. private equity firm.
That's right,
Okay.
2012. The Lone Star dispute has actually just completed its hearing this past May and June in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So under the schedule, it seems likely that the final award which is decision, will be released sometime next year.
Next year.
It can be delayed to 2017 or 2018, but all things go as scheduled, then the decision will be released sometime next year in 2016, which will receive a lot of attention, obviously.
Yes.
That is the first case brought by Lone Star. And the second one is the one brought by a company called Hanokal of United Arab Emirates of Middle East. And this case was brought against the Korean government in this past May this year. And this one is based upon Korea-Netherlands BIT. BIT means Bilateral Investment Treaty.
Okay.
So BIT is the legal mechanism which allows foreign investors to bring all these legal actions. So for Lone Star, the first one was made possible because of Korea-Belgium BIT. 2007 Korea-Belgium BIT.
Okay.
And this one of Hanokal dispute has been made possible by the 2007 Korea Netherlands BIT.
Okay.
So
right.
these are the two disputes which are ongoing. And the third one is the one brought by an entity called Dayani, Dayani Family Group of Iran.
Oh, okay.
And this one is based upon 1998 Korea-Iran BIT. So all these different BITs are now allowing foreign investors to think about bringing in a legal case against the Korean government, not only against the Korean governments actually, but also other foreign governments as well, wherein they have made investments. So again, this is not just a peculiar situation for Korea, but this is actually a global phenomenon. And many countries are actually concerned about this new development.
Well, but then this ISD mechanism itself is not a bad thing when you consider that it actually helps to protect foreign investors and companies from government measures and policies that actually violate FTAs or investment treaties. And in fact, if you protect these foreign investors, then it can actually attract more foreign investment for the country.
That's
right?
true. That's true.
So have Korean companies filed an ISD lawsuit against any foreign country in the past? Or anything ongoing right now?
That's true. That's exactly right. So, based upon, in line with this new trend, Korean companies are also using this new mechanism for their benefit. So the first case was brought by a company called Ansung Housing Corporation. This corporation actually filed an ISDS case against the Chinese government just last year. That's the first case. And second case has been brought by Samsung Engineering against the Omani government.
Oh, wow. Omani
government, again in the Middle East. So these are the two official cases. And also there is a case which has not been disclosed yet, but it is reported that another case has been filed by a Korean corporation in 2013 based upon confidential arrangement between the disputing parties. So if we count the confidential arrangement dispute as well, then Korean companies have used these disputes now 3 times. And again, in 2-year time span period, which means that this is the reflection of the growing global trend, both against Korea, also outward by Korean companies vis-a-vis other foreign governments as well.
All right. But then when you consider these ISDS lawsuits, they're very costly and they tend to take a long time when you process these lawsuits. And also they actually may challenge a country's public policies.
That's right.
Are there any cases like these in other countries?
Yes, the fundamental problem of investment arbitration, as you just mentioned, the problem is that it involves the legitimate governmental policies sometimes. So that is actually one of the core reasons that raise concern with respect to the investment arbitrations, not only for the Korean governments, but also for other governments as well. So many examples are now can be found for these issues. And there's one case called Vattenfall, which involves German government. This case involves the German government's regulation concerning the nuclear reactor construction and abolishment. This is obviously a legitimate governmental decision area, but again, this has been regarded as an issue which may lead to the violation of BIT or mainly for that issue, BIT. So this is just one example, and this raises the concern of the legitimate governmental policy vis-a-vis the need to protect the foreign investors.
All right. Well, but then what should the Korean government do from here on out in order to better deal with these kind of losses that are kind of thrown at the Korean government?
That's a really difficult question. But again, to overcome the difficulties posed by this new trend or global phenomenon, there are many issues, there are many areas that we can do better. There are many areas that we can improve our regulatory authority or the framework of exercising regulatory authority to deal with the possibility of new disputes. One way that we can think about is that actually the disputes are mainly caused by the lack of preparation. Lack of preparation on the part of the government. So it's not just because the government is adopting a policy which has many problems in the first place. Rather, the policy itself or policies themselves are legitimate generally, but the process of adopting the policy or the procedural steps that lead to the policy formulation are sometimes found in violation of the requirements of the BIT.
All right. So preparation is the key.
Preparation and following the steps of regulatory framework perhaps is the key to this issue.
All right. Thank you so much for your insight today, Professor.
My pleasure.
And that brings us to the end. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching and have a great day, everyone.